Sorry, millennials, but this video isn't about you. Well, kind of. It's not your fault, though. It never is it?
It's not your fault, all right?
I happen to be in Gen X, and I'm smashed right between you two big bullies, the millennials and the baby boomers. Well, this particular housing bubble actually happens to not be the millennials' fault. It's their turn to buy. You know whose fault it really is? Why? Because of the lock-in effect. That song that was playing in the background there, that's from 1985. Half of millennials were born by then. According to a recent article by Markets Insider, millennials are fueling a generational housing bubble that's set to burst over the next decade as demand for homes falls off, according to researchers. That means when the millennials stop spending money, we're going to be in trouble. In a recent report from the Indiana University Center for Real Estate Studies, researchers said that millennials who are between their mid-20s and early 40s, that's early 40s, are in the prime home buying age and have pushed up home prices in recent years as demand outweighs supply. However, the situation will begin to reverse itself when baby boomers start to age out of the housing market. Meanwhile, post-millennial generations will be smaller in numbers. That could lead to an excess of housing, potentially pushing down prices and sparking a crash in the real estate sector. Look, we're a long way off from that happening because before it can take place, the baby boomers have to move on to something else, and their interest rates are so locked in, it's really going to be hard for them to contemplate a move anytime soon. It's got an interesting shot. A recent article in Fortune magazine highlighted that these 3% mortgage rates will loom large over the market for years to come. Record low home vacancy rates have essentially depleted housing inventory and materially tightened supply, which is a huge problem, essentially offsetting any new construction that we've had in recent times. With rates moving closer to their peak of 7.37%, homeowners that locked in lower rates during the pandemic housing boom or earlier, as rates had been low for years, are choosing not to sell and retain their low rates, often of 3% or less. According to Goldman Sachs, 99% of borrowers have a mortgage rate lower than the current market rate. This is called the locked-in effect, and I don't know about you, but to me it makes perfect sense. And got the job done. So it's real simple. This is the U.S. housing market. If you locked in below 3%, you probably have a $2,000 mortgage because of where prices were. So you're tipping towards staying. You're locked in. However, if you're trying to buy now with above 6%, that same loan amount approximately would be $3,500 a month. So that's really the locked in effect, is that there's people locked in at this. They might be interested in moving up to a bigger home, but above 6%, even taking the equity out of their current home doesn't make any sense. At some point though, we're gonna be right here in the middle. At some point here, we're gonna be right in the middle. And that's when the story changes because of one word. Humans. You see, it doesn't make much sense if you're paying $2,000 a month to get a slightly nicer home and pay $1,500 more a month. That doesn't make sense. But when the number somewhere is in the middle, maybe it's 5%, or maybe if it's closer to 4%, then it gets tricky, because maybe that bathroom that you've been dealing with for the last 5 years is finally on your last nerve. Or maybe you had that third or fourth child a few years ago and it's time now to get some more space. Or maybe you are really tired of taking care of an acre or two and you need to downsize. There's some point here in the middle, because we're likely never going back to the 3s. We're certainly never going back to the 2s. But there's going to be some point in the middle where things start to move. What does that mean? Well, that means for those of you who are sitting here waiting, keep your eyes open. Doesn't mean that anything I think is going to happen soon. But those of you who are not locked in at all, now might be your opportunity, because when these people start going from here to here, they won't be doing it at 6%. They'll be doing it at a lower percentage rate, and they're going to outbid you because they've got that equity built. This is where time in the market really does matter. As I was recording this video, I realized that I forgot to tell you that I'm connected with agents all around the country, and that you can get a hold of me via the top pinned comment on this video. Grab some time on my Calendly and we can talk about what your goals are, and I can connect you with someone who's actually in the market in the area that you are looking in. I also get concerned anytime I see numbers like 99%. Is that a bubble? It's too hard right now to know because we're in it. Is it caused by the millennials? I'm not so sure it's their fault.
It's not your fault.
Look, there are plenty of things that we can blame on the millennials. Reader's Digest does a great job of highlighting some. Yep, that Reader's Digest. Remember them? They had an interesting article about 20 things that we're blaming on millennials. Millennials seem to be the scapegoat, especially in the United States. They're blamed on the poor economy, which from 2007 to 2009, when the big crash happened, they were in their early 20s. They're also blamed for debt creation, which a lot of it is student loan debt, which is a whole other issue. Another reason for millennials' failure to launch is that houses are too expensive to buy. The demand for home ownership is there, they just can't afford it. Income growth in the last 45 years has only been $29 more a year than today in 1974 if you take into account inflation. During that same time period, home prices went up by about 39%. No wonder they can't afford it. The inability to afford housing is, not surprisingly, especially true in expensive markets. Studies have shown that the metro areas with the greatest percentages of young adults living at home tend to be metros with the highest rents, suggesting that affordability of housing is an issue. Affordability is a major crisis. We'll talk about that more in the upcoming video. But don't worry, millennials, there are some solutions out there. Like in the state of Oregon, there's a program that helps with down payment and a nonprofit that is set up to really work on this sort of issue with affordability. And you know what? It's going well, and it's going to get better. So be encouraged by that. I know that people talk a lot of junk about millennials. There's one thing I know about millennials, so you're not afraid to get your hands dirty. I know in the media the reputation is not always that. That's not true. That's not what I see daily. Millennials are hardworking. They're just trying to do the best they can for their families. There is help on the way, and I do think there's hope. There's a lot of hope. But what if this? What if it's just that we're all a bunch of humans trying to do our best that we can in the world and trying to make the best decision for ourselves and our families that we can. But sometimes we mess up because we are humans, and sometimes humans won't make the best decisions. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. Hit me up in the comments if you've ever had a bad housing market decision that you've made. We would love to learn from you. But at the end of the day, it's more important that we're kind and we treat one another like we're humans, because this housing market that we're in is likely not to change anytime soon. It seems like the Fed is stuck on their path. We definitely have to get inflation down, but how are you going to sell your home if this lock-in effect doesn't change? So this could be around for quite a while. The reality is the banks have to collapse, and banks collapsing will also put an additional pressure on the housing market. No perfect scenario out there, and it's likely not going to be perfect anytime soon. The real reason? Humans are involved. My goal is to bring you what I'm seeing in rural America, because it might be different than what we're seeing in the urban areas. Here are some other videos that you might enjoy. Hopefully this video has been helpful. If I can help in any way, hit me up.